Hey guys, I'm Chris Buck and a very warm welcome to Friday Fretworks. This week is going to be taking a look at undoubtedly one of the most talked about pedals of last year, and that is the Dane by ThorpyFX. If somehow either of the above have escaped your attention up until this point, just to give you a very quick overview of both. ThorpyFX, being a relative newcomer to the boutique pedal world, released its first pedal in 2015. ThorpyFX obviously being Mr. Adrian Thorpe. Pretty famously at this point, to be honest, with a background in the British military, specifically within bomb disposal. So it's maybe no surprise that Thorpy's effects really are truly built to last, dare I say, bomb-proof. Outwardly, looking in at Thorpy, it's been a pretty stratospheric rise. Released their first pedal in 2015, and in an incredibly short space of time have made an absolutely massive mark, seeing them in retailers all across the world and on high-profile, session guys, touring, gigging guys, boards all across the world. Really been an incredible rise. So, it's maybe no surprise that they've teamed up with the Dane, aka Danish Pete, aka Mr. Peter Honore. If you're not familiar with Pete through Anderton's TV, odds on you will have seen him on any number of the immensely high-profile gigs that he's done down the years. The consummate session guy for the likes of Westlife, Tom Jones, Girls Out Loud, Atomic Kitten, Il Divo, Elena Fisher on the X Factor. Just as I said, the consummate session guy and undoubtedly one of the best guitar players I've ever had the fortune to play with. Also, a sweeter guy you will never wish to meet. Mad as a box of frogs. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. But just a lovely guy and an incredible player. So it's no surprise that he's teamed up with Thorpy to create what is, quite frankly, an incredible pedal. Just to give you a couple of features of this pedal, on the right-hand side we have the boost, and on the left-hand side we have the drive section. Fairly uniquely, I guess, the boost actually comes pre-drive. Now, if you're familiar with dual-sided overdrive pedals, more likely or more often than not, the boost will come post-drive for, a dB kick for solos, leads, or just sections where you really need to stand out. But down to Pete's fairly exact in specifications, the drive section actually comes after the boost. Speaking to Adrian Thorpe about this, his initial knee-jerk response was to put, as you would expect, I guess, the drive section before. I'm getting myself confused now, putting the boost section after the drive. But it was down to Pete, and by Adrian's own admission, it was a genius move, and the two do work incredibly well together. Interestingly as well, the two sides actually work independently of one another. I'm a big fan of the Tim by Paul Cochran, but my one kind of gripe with that pedal has always been that you can't use the boost independently of the drive. Whether this was, something that Adrian or Pete had noticed, who knows, but the ability to use either side independently is a genius move, especially when you consider that the lows control on the boost side is one of the best things I've ever seen on a pedal. It's a little kind of fattener, I guess, is the way of looking at it, which really kind of fine-tunes your pickups. If you're using single coils, as Pete is fairly renowned for, or if you're using humbuckers, really allows you to dial in how much low end you want and how much you want to fatten up your tone. It's one of those things that once you've turned it on, you will struggle to turn it off. It's a little bit, in no way does it sound like a clone, but it's that kind of clone effect, I guess, where once you've turned it on, everything just sounds better and you probably won't want to turn it off. In regard to the drive side, there's actually a fair amount of drive on tap, a little bit more than I would probably expect given the man it was designed for. But to be honest, that's one of the cooler things about this pedal, is that as much as it is a signature product, it has uses which will far transcend just one man or one set of circumstances. Today's video, I've focused on using humbuckers just because the majority of the videos I've seen about this guitar, understandably so given Pete's background for Telecasters and Strats, have been focusing on single coils. But that's kind of been done to death, so I want to explore something a little bit more rocky and a little bit more gainy. So I'm using my Les Paul in today's video. Aside from the Strat section at the start of the video, obviously, just to give you a little bit of a flavour of how great it does sound with single coils. So there's not much more to say about this pedal, to be honest. In regard to whether I was trying to answer a question, is it worth the hype? It's hand-built in the UK, and it's the confluence of two of the coolest guys I know. Mr. Adrian Thorpe, undoubtedly an electronics genius, whether it's making pedals or disposing bombs, and one of the coolest guitar players I've ever met, Mr. Peter Honore. I'm under no obligation to say anything nice about this pedal. This was given to me by Thorpy a while ago in return for some work I did for him, and it's just, in a very short space of time, become one of my favourite overdrive pedals, and undoubtedly one of the best sounding overdrive pedals I've ever played. Go check it out and see what you make of it. I've been Chris Buck, this is Friday Fretworks. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next week for another episode. Cheers guys, take care.